Brilliant. So, panel right now on the collaborative customer experience outside the formal contact center. What does that mean? Well, you're going to find out in the next 40 minutes. So let's get into it. Can I have Chris Angus from 8x8, John Christian from Kixi, and Tony Martino from Tollring up on the stage, please? Come on, all of you. Let's have a bit of a panel. All right, Tony, thank you. Yeah, just grab a seat. We'll be fine. All right. It's a really interesting topic, I think, from my perspective as an analyst, because, you know, we talk a lot about communications. We talk a lot about the intersection of communications and CX. And obviously, there is a lot of demand for customer experience technology and good customer service outside of large formal contact centers. And really trying to understand what that looks like and how that demand is crystallizing is really what we're going to get into on this panel. First, let's just go down the line and let's just talk a little bit about all of the companies. Let's just introduce all of ourselves. I'm sure most of the people in the room know you, but why don't we just make sure that everyone's up to date on who you are and what you're doing in the space.
Okay, I'll start. Tony Martino, CEO of Tollring. Tollring is a customer experience platform. We deliver CX solutions that sit across hybrid UC environments. And more recently, we've spent a lot of our R&D dollars working in the Microsoft Teams space and delivering a very comprehensive portfolio of services in that space, and really working hard on being able to enable our services in the most seamless possible way across marketplaces and so forth. So a lot of work around CX, and it's the foundation of the services we deliver.
Brilliant. John Christian, how about you?
Hi, everybody. John Christian. I run marketing for Kixi. We do something pretty similar to Tollring in the sense that we are a customer experience value-added service provider. We've built a portfolio of products that we partner with service providers to enrich their cloud communications platforms. And we do that globally. We've got about 100 service provider partners, and we deliver that call analytics, CRM integration. We've just announced a partnership with Oak to resell their call recording capabilities. So yeah, that's us.
Hi, I'm Chris from 8x8. So 8x8 are a end-to-end cloud provider, platform as a service. We will offer you, basic UC, telephony replacement, call center, contact center, voice analytics from end to end. We also have our own infrastructure, our own ability to deliver you analytics, so you get an end-to-end view of what's going on within the organization, deliverable through a partner community or direct, depending on your flavor. And then we also combine with an ecosystem of partners to bridge that gap where there's maybe some specialist requirements in order to provide some more like detailed solutions depending on the customer needs. So we've been around about 30, 40 years. So hopefully most of you know who we are, and if not, then that's failing on our marketing team, and I blame them.
Brilliant. Let's just get some audience engagement, which is an American thing, but I've decided to adopt it. How many of you, if you can just raise your hands, think you understand a clear definition of where the formal and informal contact center starts and begins? So what's the line between a formal contact center and not? How many people think they know where that is? Hands raised. Okay, we've only got 2, 3, 4. Okay, a few hands raised in the audience. So I guess that's one of the things that I wanted this panel to address, is that there's kind of a blurry line between the formal and informal contact centers. So where do you think it starts, Tony? Where do you think we end the formal contact center and move into the informal?
Well, I think most of the solutions we've delivered till now is, but we have about 20,000 end customer users, and they're all in this informal space, or certainly the majority of them are. And I think, look, for me, the line is really down to, are my people doing more than just dealing with inquiries? So it's about job function. It's about how individual, what makes up the individual's day. And in an informal environment, you've got people that are doing more than just dealing with calls or dealing with interactions. So it's working out how to empower those people to do multiple things. And an informal call center is all about those people that are, as I say, doing things outside of the more traditional, formal, I'm here to clock on, log in, deal with calls, have a break. It's a much, it's a more dynamic and flexible environment.
Interesting.
I would add to that, I think the common characteristic that defines an informal contact center is the reliance on the voice channel as the key means of customer interaction. So you tend to find that, that can be high volumes of inbound, high volumes of outbound, but as Tony says, the people that are dealing with those interactions, it's not their only jobs. The other big thing we see is that because they are reliant on that means of that voice channel as the means of customer interaction, that's the way they control customer experience. We also commonly see that there's a value placed on that call. So if you think, my favourite example of that is a franchise of car dealerships. They're £30,000 average, cost of a missed call. If they miss that call, that buyer is going somewhere else. And so that's kind of a lot of the characteristics that drive the need for a informal contact center, but not the requirement to go build a formal contact center with a heavy cost, a heavy complexity, etc.
I mean, I think there's some stuff on John's point. I think for me, it's less about the channel, so less about the voice or versus digital, but it's more about whether they're customer facing or not. Like historically, we should look at call centers or contact centers as a cost center. So it was hard to find investment into those areas because it was a sunk cost. But now we're looking at multiple parts of the organization who aren't traditionally customer facing, but they all form part of that CX experience. So if you look at HR teams, finance teams, billings, collections, they all operate in small silos and pockets of teams who would need access to like robust and more what's the right word? Like more challenging tool sets to give them access to the right information at the right time. Like before that, these guys would just be on plain old PBX, be a pass through or be an email, follow up later on. Now what we're seeing is they are forming like a full end-to-end part of that CX story. So as we look at this journey of an informal contact center, I think that's how you bridge between that team and your front of house teams. And now we're looking, I see now, my background was small business. So I've matured through this career looking at organizations of 10, 15, 20 employees trying to find ways to maximize their efficiencies. And I'm thinking, how more efficient can you be? There's 10 blokes in a room. Like, you just ask him next to you. And you see that evolve into that same ethos, but they're a pocket of a team in another part of the country. So that is, for me, it's less about the channel of interaction, but more about how we make them, give them the ability to be customer facing if they choose to be. That is the evolution of the informal contact center for me.
So that's really interesting. I mean, I'll talk about Cavell just for a minute, because when we tried to sit down and define this informal contact center, we had a sort of checklist. And we started off with, okay, well, what services are they buying? And that wasn't that fruitful, because it was like, well, depending on the size of the company and the company's needs, they might need more compliance or call recording. So we kind of threw that out. And then we were like, well, it's about a managed system. That's what takes us from a simple UC ring round, right? We move to a managed system for reviewing and evaluating the success of that customer interaction. And then it's interesting. And then we sort of started talking about a similar definition that the panel has come to, which is it's about whether that person's main role is customer service or not. But then I guess that leads us to a question, which is, where then does the opportunity lie? So is it in the small companies only who have the need to build their contact center with non-contact center agents because they're more expensive? Or does it span all reams of business? Are we going to start seeing, informal, tiny contact centers in large banks, so that kind of thing? What do we reckon? Chris, you're nodding. Do you want to give me an answer on that one?
So yes to both. Okay. So I think, like, if you look at it as a linchpin in, right? So look at for small businesses, maybe there's not the skill set or the expertise to deliver or engineer internally a formal CC application, right? And that's fine. So that informal CC play allows you to take a step through from UC with more refined, more detailed, more complex interactions, but in a way which is easy to administer. So you have that ability to move in and then step change through. But we have an informal CC application, and we've got one of our largest users of that is a multi-thousand employee organisation out in France, and they're using that because, much like we said a minute ago, they have a subset of skills and subset of users within the organisation who need access to those really complex tools and applications and analysis and data, but don't really need that full CC application. So you're gonna see that leveling the playing field and bridging that gap. So if you're trying to sell to a small business, you are going to allow them to buy the same tools and same services as a multinational 10,000 employee organisation at a price point which they can afford. So you allow them to compete, you allow them to grow. So to your point, Finbar, you're going to see both. You're going to see that start small, step change through, but then also you're going to allow people to buy UC and CC, and then bridge that gap in that CX space, which in our experience is probably anywhere between 20 and 60% of your entire employee base.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know many people that say, I'd like to go and buy an informal call center or contact center, right? It's not a thing. And I think to Chris's point, I think the CX is the glue between kind of UCaaS, CCaaS, really, because our customers want solutions that can help them actually do their job better, but they don't really want to become agents or buy expensive formal call center or agent licenses. So it's about our service provider partners appreciating that actually all of their customers could do with better customer experience analytics, better understanding of how they're interacting with their customers. So it's not no one says, "Oh, let me buy some informal call center software." So if you can understand the needs of your customers and you can build into your UCaaS play an ability to give them the tools that go a long way to what they need, again, around distribution of staff, them not always doing, as I say, a call center function, but they still want to be able to understand how they're interacting with their customers and where the return on investment is through missed opportunities and so forth. So, it's about that customer experience bit in the middle that I think is the important sell rather than an informal call center solution.
Yeah.
The irony, and I know I'm oversimplifying the contact, anyone who works for a contact centre company will probably take me aside after this and give me a clip round the ear for saying this, but to some extent the contact centre use case is quite a lot simpler. As soon as we move down into this informal contact centre world that we've kind of created to just give it a name, that it's just a set of requirements that span this multitude of different businesses with different problems, right? And like we're lucky we get to, because we work with the service providers, we get to see the types of businesses they're working with and the types of verticals in particular. Again, we like to bundle these into sort of vertical use cases. And it's really fascinating to see the different ways that that businesses use this informal contact center world, which it doesn't surprise me to hear you say you struggled to categorize it, right? Because, you get requirements that are a fast food chain that have got, that employ 2,000 people across 150 sites, right? And they need local visibility and regional visibility of how they're managing those calls. You see doctors change. My favourite one at the moment is vets practices are getting bought up by venture capitalists firms because there's loads of money in it because everyone's got pets post-COVID. And, they now put in a set of rules that say, right, you've got to answer calls this quickly, you've got to return calls this quickly. We need you to report on all of these performance criteria in order for you to retain your franchise. So they need all of this capability. But every single use case we see is slightly different and has a different set of requirements. And I think the challenge that certainly, if you would agree, but the challenge that we face is empowering our partners and our partners' channels to go and communicate that and to uncover those requirements. That's the key.
You make a very interesting point, which is just, from a analyst perspective, we have to have a definition because people ask us what's the TAM or what's the market size on this. And really, as you say, you have to get down to the brass bolts of, are you asking me about SMB contact center? Are you asking me about a small business with less than 50 people? How much is that worth? I can tell you that. Are you asking me how many people are going to be giving 20% of their day to contact center calls without buying a full license? Okay, now we're into a bit of problem. And where that informal definition lies, does it belong with, because you could think in some ways a large contact center that also enables other people to join as agents temporarily is just a large contact center with all the bells and whistles. But when you talk about making some of those capabilities available to smaller companies, then you start to unlock a whole load of market opportunity. And I guess that's something that I want to talk about a bit, and as well, on John Christian, on the challenges to the channel as well in setting that. Like, what do you have to do to be set up, the people in the room have to do to be set up to take advantage of this opportunity? Do they have to be CX experts who can bring down the big capabilities of 8x8 to their customers? Do they have to be, where's the position? Tony, why don't you...
Yeah, and I think Rick made the point in the last discussion. For me, I concur with him. It's simplicity, really, Finbar. If you want to sell CX solutions en masse to your base, it's got to be really dead simple to turn on, dead simple to use, and agnostic in a way from verticalization. John made the point: many different verticals, many different. One of the challenges of SMB delivery, right, is you've got almost the same required needs at a much smaller level with a much smaller return on investment. So you can't be having costly conversations around turning stuff on, making it easy to get access to products. So for me, we've invested heavily on all those journeys. How can we help our service provider partners really unlock services, whether it's unlocking them naturally through bundles, whether it's elective through certain requirements? You've got to be able to make it very simple. And that for us is a very important point to sell our services at scale.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we're also empathetic of the fact that when you get into a channel sales organization, they're not just selling call analytics, not just selling CRM integration. They're selling a very long list of capabilities, and so part of our mission as a Kixi, and I'm sure it's true of our colleagues here. We are trying to empower our partners with those simple go-to-market motions, bite-size discovery questions, and our feeling has been and is proving that with not that much of an uplift of knowledge, you start to empower your salespeople to get a little bit more consultative, a little bit more under the skin of what the nature of the business that you're serving is. And that becomes, again, more important as you start to get into some of the more sensitive verticals. So when you start to get into, healthcare business, you've got a lot of regulation behind you. You need to start to understand that there's certain CRMs that are, approved by the regulators. When you start to get into fintech, you're starting to have to follow specific rules and regulations. And so there, a lot of what we're trying to do is support our partners to enable them in a very simple, bite-sized manner.
I think I'd agree. I think to enable and support with simplicity is the underlying tone for all three of us. So from our side, it's even more simple than that, is that we're not really asking you to identify the solution. We're asking you to use your relationship and use your connection to identify an opportunity. Ask the right questions, bring them to the right table, and allow us to then internalize and work out what the right way is to solve those problems. And from an honest perspective, if we believe that we're not the right solution for that opportunity and for that prospect, then we'll have those conversations. And I think there's not a single partner we work with that doesn't have us plus 2, 3, 4, 5 other people who they can work with. And we implore that. We absolutely encourage people to have an agnostic approach, because we want to walk into opportunities at our side where we believe we are the right option, and then it's down to us to put our best foot forward, whether it's commercial, or whether it's a use case perspective, or whether it's even just a tech for tech race. That's what we try and trying to get across. And that might be, to your point, it might be around logistics or compliance reasons, or whatever the case may be. But to make it really plain and simple in the first period, we don't need you to be experts as a partner on how our solutions work or how you make the sausage. Reality is, no one really cares how the sausage is made. Your job is identify there's a problem, understand what the use case looks like, understand what they want right now, and utopia, and then we'll be able to come in underneath and say, we could do these things, we can't do those things, but actually we'll address those things over here. Does that work for you? And if you can do those things and have a grown-up conversation, by and large, you get to a point where you can agree something, or you walk away without investing too much time and wasted sales motions. And that's kind of how we like to do things from our channel side.
No, it's quite interesting because sort of across discussions, Cavell is having the role of a salesperson to focus more on business outcomes, shifting into thinking, what are you actually trying to solve? And I'm going to sell you the thing that's going to fix that specific problem is becoming more and more prevalent. You can't have just a technical discussion anymore because the technology is changing quite fast. And then on the idea that technology is changing quite fast, we do have to talk about AI at some point on every panel. It is mandated by management.
You lasted 21 minutes, Finbar. 21 minutes before you mentioned AI. Well done.
I know. I'm winning the
I'm proud of you.
card. But I mean, AI will play a factor in this, and maybe not just in small companies, but large companies as well. How do we see AI fitting into this informal space?
Well, massively, firstly. I think everything that's been said today, I absolutely resonate with, and all the graphs prove it. Yeah. CX, AI, they're the two top billers in terms of where people are wanting to spend their money. And I think certainly the investment we've made in voice analytics, looking to own the entire technology stack all the way through. We recently were acquired by a Gen AI first business, and that's given us a huge amount of scope in terms of being able to really deliver the analytics element around voice. And I think it's a very interesting and very exciting market. I think it's Gartner said 26 billion by 2026. It's a big space. And I think the work we're looking to do is really democratize that AI capability so that we can attack our traditional market in SMB. And I think if we move from a $30 Copilot price point and we start delivering this at a much more affordable price point, I think AI will, it's already proving it's a benefit. Now, if we can start rolling that up to deal with business outcomes, real solutions around the business, as opposed to it being something of benefit to us personally, I think you can get into some very exciting return on investment areas there. And we're focusing very heavily around the recording stack, but more importantly, the AI elements on top, right? So, call recording is fairly commoditized now, but the insights that are available to businesses through those conversations, I think is is gold. And I think there's a huge level of investment there, and I think that's an area of real focus for us, certainly as a business.
Absolutely.
Just slightly off topic, I do think Cavell are missing a trick. I think you should introduce buzzword bingo to your events. Where
is that a forfeit or a prize?
I think we all get to pick 10 words, and the moment they're all mentioned, AI has been mentioned, we big shout out buzzword bingo. What do I think? It's happening. It's going to happen. And Mike talked about it earlier, our vision for, well, not just our vision, but our roadmap for where we're heading, aligned to the vision for a sort of single, a move away from the siloed value-added services to a single data-rich, AI-powered future. As a person who runs marketing and does a lot of work on the partner marketing side, I, as you've probably sensed, I love the whole application of our products and how they're used. And when you start to get into the vertical piece, it's just the opportunity is phenomenal to start to the combination of your CRM information with inbound calling, being able and call transcription, and being able to suddenly start to take call transcription and write contracts off the back of that. Doctor's surgeries where you've got you're starting to predictive insights into, again, inbound callers, the sort of times that you're getting the sort of higher risk patients calling in, when to have doctors on hand to support that. It's just super interesting, and I think that's very much where we have to go. Is we have to start to look at we have to get much closer to the real world application. And let's face it, we talk about AI a lot. Part of the challenge with AI is, okay, what is the application? And I think this is a great example where AI can actually make a real tangible difference. We talk about making sure that we don't start to, like, everything we do, we're always looking at where the contact center starts. So we've got to always got to exist below that. We don't want to start to encroach upon that space, which means that we've got to watch where we're putting our prices out as well. But I think the most important thing is wherever we choose to price is tangible value, and I think that's what the overlay of AI and intelligent insights. That's what's going to allow us to drive greater value.
I think if we go back to the initial question, it's going to be table stakes, right? I think I mentioned earlier on the ability to level the playing field. AI does that even more so for the small guys versus the large enterprises. It allows them to play in fields which they probably couldn't do before. And for us, from our side, our perspective, it's about being consultative, understanding what you're trying to achieve. It's not AI for AI's sake. There is too much AI buzzword bingo, to your point a minute ago. There's stuff that we all know is machine learning, predictive outcomes. There are SQL statements, there are analysis. They are now all called AI. We all know they're not. Looking around the room, most of you are as grey as or bald as I am, other than someone who's not grey or bald, right? But the reality is we've all been around long enough to know that these things have been floating around in the same guise. There's no real changes in a lot of what we're now hearing as AI. AI is here to stay, and right now, if you look at it, this is the worst it's ever going to be. It will only ever get better, more intelligent and more valuable. So right now, what I see and people I speak to is that it's much more a top-down approach to how to put it into the organization. And that has to kind of stop. We're seeing the C-suite saying, get AI in. Why? To do what? We don't know. Just put it in. So for me, and what I see is how you bridge that gap in the small business and large enterprises is taking a pause and a time out and saying, what's the problem we're trying to solve? Actually, you could do that with an IVR, not a bot. Or actually, do you know what? You're not going to save headcount, or do you want to save headcount? What are you trying to achieve? So right now, from my perspective, and what we see 8x8 is we haven't seen anybody that's taken on any of our AI services use it to cut headcount. It is not a cost-saving measure, but equally, it's really challenging to put an immediate ROI against it. So it becomes much more like a utility. When I say table stakes, it will become something over the next 5 or 6 years, something you have to have and explore with, but it'll be a sunk operational cost, not a put dollars in versus dollars out. And that's what I think as a business, and certainly as vendors and suppliers, what we will find challenging to articulate in a sales motion is how to get people on board. Because it is money, it's money they have to spend, which they probably haven't budgeted for. So I think for anyone in the room, from our partner community, are thinking, how do I sell this? That's one of the things to try and get your head around. How can I get across like intrinsic value, which is not tied to pounds, shillings, and pence? And that's one of the challenges we as a business and as an industry need to overcome in order to get high adoption rates, for it to learn more and then be more effective.
Are you ready for our value-added service AI song? If you hit play on that, if you could.
I mean, I can sing a bit later if you want in the pub, but I won't. I mean, I can actually sing quite well. But anyway, just to note, the timer's a bit ahead, so we actually have a fair bit left on the panel. Not tons, but a little bit. But I think you said something really interesting, Chris, which is about how we build out the value to these people. Because one of the things that was fed back to me when I was talking about, okay, let's make this 20% of someone's day, is training that person, getting that person equipped to deal with those calls, making it so it's not a burden that eats into their other work. So, I mean, how are we approaching enabling that agent? Like, what tools do those people need so that they can be an agent without becoming an agent full time, right? You know, they need information, they need recording, they need to feel safe and cared for like an agent.
Yeah, I think customer experience is probably the easiest place where you can apply AI, and get real value out of AI. I mean, it's, for me, a no-brainer. And I accept what Chris was saying around, how do we derive real value from it? But I think, those days are here. Certainly around CX, I think the ability to, for an end small customer to be able to say, these are the topics of interest to me, and all of my conversations that my people are having with my customers, I'm really keen on understanding these 6 things. That's there today, right? So, and if you then take that to the next level around automatically evaluating your interactions so that you get that without having to play back and spend a lot of man hours actually understanding what conversations are going on. If you can bring all of that insight out very seamlessly, then I think there's significant value right the way down to the SMB. A managing director of a small company, I'd love to know what my people are talking about with my customers, and how can I do that in the most time-effective way. And I think these are real examples of where AI is really making a difference, and it's only getting stronger and better. And LLMs and small language models, you can start really honing in on training those models and actually allowing them to deliver valuable insights by customers actually setting up their own topics and requirements. I think that's a great example of how AI can make a significant difference.
Just at the basic level, it's just got to be simplicity. Like most of the people that we see that roll out a Kixi to underpin an informal contact center, the people that are answering the phone calls don't consider themselves to be agents. So don't consider themselves to need formal training, or that's not the outcome we're looking for. If we have to roll out formal training to someone who's answering calls, we've kind of failed. What you want is someone to be able to go from serving, I don't know, a customer who's come in to buy a car, sit back down at their desk, see that there's a call waiting, answer it, know who that person is that's calling, know that person called in 2 years ago and spent £60,000 on a BMW, and they're probably, they buy a new car every 2 years. They're the kinds of insights that you want to be able to, that front of house person wants to be able to see, and that's deliverable today, right? Yes, we can refine that and start to enhance it, but ultimately, that's success, right? If they can then deliver an exceptional customer experience.
I mean, for me, the first thing to do is remove the word agents. So these guys aren't agents. To use your analogy of the car garage, they're not agents. The people that want to do, they are. We're trying to empower any part of the organisation to be customer-facing CX leaders, and that is through tools and training and data. The unification of having insights into that 360 view, to your point, actually, if someone calls in and we can track from the telephone number what they've done before, what they've bought before, challenges they've had, irrespective of what part of the business that they land in, great. The guys in the forecourt, in the garage, and Jaguar Land Rover, they're not agents. These guys are selling car parts and selling cars, but actually when the phone rings and they answer it, they're not quite sure whether it's going to be a service inquiry or you're trying to sell a new motor. Right? So they have to have access to that information and to empower them to make those decisions. And again, to your point, with as little upheaval and training as possible. So when we use the word agents, we just really try and move away from that, because in most cases, even now, post-COVID, these guys aren't agents. A call center these days is no longer a big room full of people. It's a plethora of people joined by a single set of tasks across the country. So there should be no differentiation anymore between formal or informal, other than the tools or skill sets they're trying to achieve. Unless you want to talk agents as in terms of agentic agents, which is more humanoid versions of AI and more empathy-driven AI bots who can infiltrate your agent portfolios. That's another way to address the agent question. But I think the first thing and foremost, we should stop considering the guys that are front of house workers as agents, and start trying a way we can almost every single person becomes an informal contact center, just bridge together through different teams and tasks.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. I mean, captured within both of your all of your statements is this question as to what capabilities does that person need, what information do they need to be armed with, and then of course the question as to how compliant do they have to be, right. How regulated do they have to be, because Tony, you talked a lot about the call recording side of things, where you do actually have to be actively training that person, making sure they're on the level with the financial information, they're not giving out incorrect data, versus a more casual system where they just need to know, is this an opportunity, what kind of opportunity is this?
Yeah, I think so. Whether you're a car dealership salesperson who's picking up the phone, if you're taking a credit card payment, there's compliance requirements, and you want to be able to ensure that you retain compliance automatically. You want to be able to redact credit card information. You want to be able to make sure that your business is running in under the right governance. So I think there's whenever we're dealing with our customers, it's fraught with what are we saying to them, how are we saying it. Are we able to analyze whether those interactions were for service or for sales or new biz? Can we then overlay those conversations with the routing requirements? For me, if someone's setting up an ACD group or a hunt group or any form of intelligent routing of a call, it means they want to have those calls answered, right? So the CX, the element around what we deliver is ensuring that those elements are properly in play and they've been put in correctly. And so the services that we offer allow you to understand better those elements in terms of your UCaaS or even CCaaS offers. And so, the opportunity is there. As soon as someone is looking at anything to do with an inbound requirement on how to deliver a call to a human, you want to know, you'd want to measure its success. And there are a number of ways to do that in the CX world.
Yeah. So one final question to wrap up our panel. I guess we've talked a lot about what informal is and how it's not limited to a specific size of company. It's more about what sort of person is answering the calls. But I guess the question I think that really finishes us off, a lot of people are going to be interested in, is what does this do to the regular formal contact center? Like, how does it, if I'm getting 100 employees to do 20% of their day answering calls, and I had 100 formal agents before, what are we doing, in that environment? Am I diversifying? Am I expanding? Am I just using it to deal with surge queue times? How's it affecting the contact center?
I think you're immediately stopping attrition within your workforce. because you're now the most common use of things like AI, for example, is not to cut heads. It's actually to allow people to do more complex things by removing the mundane tasks into a bot-oriented solution, right? So if you're now going to spread a lot of those frontline tasks across informal users, for example, then you're now going to the formal contact center will be then freed up to spend more time on more complex engagements. So that will naturally, if we look at the combination of customer experience and employee experience, in the past they were seen as two different solutions. That they're not anymore. The reality is what you're doing now is by investing in this new informal bracket, whatever we use it, however we decide to describe it, what you're now doing is you're allowing those users to be more empowered to do more interesting tasks, makes them more fulfilled. Naturally, that will then resonate in a better customer experience. So I don't think it's going to be I don't think it's as big a shift as it appears because it's a new demographic. I think, as we said earlier on, I think it's more of it's an industry term, it's a marketing term, it's the way we bucketize it, but it really isn't that brand new. It's just how we categorize those use cases. So I think what you'll find is that those users who are traditional contact center workers, their jobs will remain the same, but actually start to work on things that are probably more exciting and empowering.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think to me, it doesn't impact the contact center market greatly. I think it probably brings about an upsell opportunity that says, okay, 1,000 agents, I need to, or 500 agents, I need to, I need a full contact center, omnichannel, I need workflow management, advanced agent performance. But I've also got this support center, an IT center, they receive customer calls as well. But I can't justify $100 a seat contact center. So now suddenly the conversation can be, well, I can offer you an informal, as much as we don't like that term, an informal contact center solution, a different set of solutions that's only going to come in at $25 a seat, and so it gives you the opportunity to start to build out solutions that are much more suited to an end of business's requirements and not just one size fits all.
Yeah, cool. The formal call center is not going anywhere, Finbar, to be honest. That's going to, there's plenty of really good solutions there. But I do think that bridging that into the back office, that's becoming more prevalent. So we're seeing, a lot of requirements where they have a formal call center in play with all the tools, but what they're actually looking for is the joined up customer experience as to when it leaves the call center. So we're starting to see how can we bridge the gap around the cradle to grave type stuff from formal call center to back office. And again, they're all customer facing teams. They're all handling customer inquiries, but not in that formal capacity. But the two are going to coexist, I think, for quite some time.
Yeah, I mean, as a CX analyst, I'm very relieved to hear that the contact center isn't going anywhere. So that's been a really great discussion. A bit of a challenge and takeaway homework. If we don't like the informal contact center word, whoever can give me the best thing that we can call it in our event in March, I'll come up with some kind of prize for you. I don't know what it'll be, but it'll be something. Because we need a good term to define these workers, and they're not agents, they're not informal agents, then, well, what are they, I guess is the question. So there's a bit of a challenge to all of us, and Cavell as well. We're going to wrap up there. It's now a break until 4:15, where this room and the other room will be back in session. In here, we're going to be talking about contact centers and collaboration and how we get money out of that. And in the other room, we're going to be talking about how to support software and maximize value with suitable hardware solutions. So a bit more of a technical chat about that. All right, thank you all for listening and have a good break.